Welcome to AutoCAD 2D modeling. Today we have a 2D model of slipcover. And before starting the 2D modeling, if you notice that in the previous lecture we have discussed how to use mirror command. So for today's lecture, if you know, if you notice that this model is also symmetry, and the model is actually symmetrical about vertical axis. So this is the point or line of symmetry, and both right hand side and left hand side are similar and the mirror of each other, mirror image. So the point is that you only need to draw one side of the model and rest will be mirrored. Now for this model, if this is the vertical axis or the axis of symmetry, here I'm going to take my reference point at the very baseline. Why this is so? This is because if you feel that all the measurements will be in vertical axis. So if you take the baseline of the model as your horizontal x-axis, it would be more convenient to go upward in positive coordinate throughout. So we will try and model this side or the whole one side of the model in our first quadrant. So this will take us the whole model in the first quadrant. So for starting with the reference point 0, comma 0, let's begin with the model. First, it will be convenient for you to take a horizontal line with the a specified first point. First point could be any, like minus, if you want to take minus 10 on x-axis and 0 on vertical axis because we want to draw a horizontal x-axis, right? So, uh, what could be the length? And you can take any of the length which is greater than your model. So the model is not more than, I think, 2 or 3. So 5 would be enough. The length of the line, 5 would be enough. So we have started from 10. So 10 plus 10 would be great. So the length can be 20. That would be enough. And the angle should be 0. Then escape. Now bring your model in the center like this. So this is going to be our baseline. Next is to draw a horizontal line, sorry, a vertical axis. And for that, you can surely start from 0, means on x-axis it is 0. And where on as on vertical axis, how much height is there? 7 point something. So 10 would be enough. So, but the line is going to be start from reference point. So this is 0, 0. Now the length should be 10. 10 would be great. And the angle must be 90 degree. That's it. Yes. Next is to change the color of your line because we need to erase this one in the end. All right. Next step is to start working on coordinate points. So let's begin with these circles. If you notice one thing that in this model, you have a lot of circles and their connections. One is supposed to be here, and at this point, at this center point, You have two circles concentric to each other. But the one important thing is to find out the center point for those circles. Then another is to find out the center point for this circle. Second, so first center point, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seven, and eight. Approximately, I, eight center points are supposed to be find out in order to draw all the requirements, right? So first thing is to find out the center point for this circle part. If you notice that you have this center point is going to be a center point for two circles concentric to each other. One is this one, another is this curved part. The radius provided for the inner circle is here 2 times radius 3.8, whereas for outer circle it is 0.63. Both are in radius. But important point is to find out the center point first. So if you feel like there is no hint or no measurement provided for the center point, there is a clue in terms of radius. If you notice that for outer circle, the radius will be the circumference of this outer circle will is going to touch the is basically touching the reference axis, right? So in terms of height, in terms of vertical axis, you have a distance or coordinate point which would be 0.63. This will be your x-axis point. And for and for x-axis coordinate point, it is 1.88 because this distance is from reference vertical axis till the center point. So this is 1.88. So these are become your center point for those concentric circles. Now keeping these center points in your mind, let's go for the circle with radius 1.88 and 0.63. 1.88 and 0.63. There you go. Now first radius is, you can take any of them first. First is 0.63. So 0.63, enter. So you see now the circle is touching the bottom line or the reference x-axis. Now just zoom in a little bit. Next is the inner circle, which is of radius 0.38 on same center point. So again, circle with radius. If it specifies the center point over here, we are not tracing it right now. So 1.88 and 0.63, where the radius is 0.38, enter. Next is the upper part of the upper circle, basically. So what will be the reference point for this center? So the coordinate point will be on x-axis, it will remain same 1.88, whereas for y-axis, if you notice that the distance from reference axis till the center point of this circle is 1.38. So it will be 1.38 like this. And the radius provided for this circle is 0.25. So, keeping the coordinate point in your mind, just go for the circle 1.88 and 1.38. Done. Next step is to draw the circle with radius 0.25, 0.25 and enter. Now, if you see that these two circles, the inner circle and the upper circles, are connected with straight lines. So you can go for straight line command, but it would be better to draw a straight line using 0 degree and 180-degree axis so that you can have an intersection point to connect the lines. Now you get the intersection point and take any of the length, or if you are taking the intersection point, that would be great. But I prefer to take a extensive length at 90-degree angle so that I can trim off the excess length. But if I don't get, if if you don't meet the circumference of this downward circle, if the line will not exactly touches the circumference, of, in case of trimming, the command will not work properly. That is why it is better to take some extra line at 90-degree angle. Now enter. Okay, once again, from this intersection point, draw this much length, and from this intersection point, it is not giving the intersection. Yeah, draw some extra length like this. And now you can easily trim off the unwanted lines. Like this, and just delete this one. Perfect. Now this extra part of this outer circle will be trimmed off in the end. So let's move further. Next step is to draw these two circles over here. And for that, first we need to clear the screen. And for the center point, coordinate point, you can easily analyze the x-axis point and the y-axis point because both are provided here. For x-axis, if you notice, there is a distance from vertical reference axis till the center point for this is 0.45. So in x-axis, it will be 0.45 distance, whereas on vertical axis, the distance from reference x-axis till the till the distance we are covering in y-axis is here 1.51. So it will be 1.51. Next is to define the center point for this part. And in x-axis, the distance from this center point to this center point is altogether 1.75. So it means for the distance from reference vertical axis till the center point, if you want to mention this center point for the circle, you need to divide 1.75 with 2. So once you divide this distance into 2, you will get 0.875. This is 7, 5. All right. Whereas on vertical axis, the distance is 2.37. So it is 2.37 like this. Whereas if you feel here is the radius and it is 4 times, means all 4 circles are of equal radius, that is 0.38. So let's go for these 2 circles using these coordinate points. So circle with radius. First point is 0.45 and 1.51. 1.51. Okay. Tab 1.51. Enter. From here, the radius is 0.38. Enter. All right. Now zoom out a little bit. Okay. Next coordinate point is 0.875. 875. Tab 2.37. Enter. Now the radius is same 0.38. Enter. Right? Now, if you notice that all 4 circles are connected to each other, right? So how we can make the connections? The connections are with straight lines. So the horizontal connections will be made later. First, or right now, we are going to make only this diagonal connection between the circles. So use 1010 radius command and just mention your tangent points and define a huge value for the radius. So you have a fine straight line and just trim off the extra part of the line. And you're done here. Next is to move further and find out the center point for these 2 circles. This is almost in the same way we have done for the downward part. So let's take this one. Now the center point for this coordinate point for the center will be, if you notice the distance among these 2 circles are 2.5 and they are equidistant from the center reference axis. So if you divide 2.5 With 2, you will get 1.25. So the distance from reference axis till this center part will be 1.25, whereas on vertical axis, the distance is provided here. It is 3.63. Now coming towards this part, this coordinate point, and again, the equidistance is provided between the center points of the upper circles, which is 3.25. So once you divide 3.25 with 2, you will get 1.625. Whereas the height or vertical point on y-axis is 5.25. Now coming towards the radius part, the radius is mentioned over here, which is 0.5 4 times, means 1, 2, 3, and 4 for all these 4 circles. So keeping these coordinate points in your mind, you have to go with this radius this time. So 1.25 and 3.63. Enter. And the radius is 0.5. Enter. And like this. Next is 1.625, 1.625 tab 5.25, enter, and the radius is same 0.5, enter. But this time, in order to make a connection between the circles, you need to observe that 3 sides are connected to each other via vertical line, straight lines, right? But the upper part of the circles are connected via an arc of radius 4.63. So, as we don't have the symmetry part or the mirror image of these circles, so right now we need to skip this line as we have skipped these horizontal lines. So we are basically right now skipping all these horizontal lines or horizontal parts or connections, if you would say. So we are right now skipping these all horizontal sections. Other than that, you must notice that there is there are more circles on the upper part, but before that we need to connect these circles. So we take the same 10 radius command and connect them using a high value of the radius like this, and just trim off the extra part. Perfect. All right. Next is to draw these two circles. and their concentric circles, if any. But first, we need to get rid of these measurements. All right. Now, for this center point on x-axis, you're covering no distance, so it's 0. Whereas on y-axis, it is 6.88. 6.88. For this upper part of the center coordinate point, this is same 0 on x-axis, whereas on vertical axis, the height is 7.63. Whereas the radius is for these two circles is 0.25. So let's go for these two circles first. Circle with center and radius. The coordinate point is 0 and 6.88. So it's 0, tap 6.88, enter. Whereas the radius is 0.25, enter. Now zoom out and you will have your circle exactly on vertical axis. Next is for the upper circle. You have coordinate points 0 and 7.63. And the radius is same, which is 0.25. Enter. Now, if you notice, this center point is concentering one more circle, which is of radius 0.5. Okay, now we have the center here and then 0.5 like this. Next step is to make a curved corner, and for that you have measurements provided here, 2 times radius 0.87, and this radius of the radius for the circle is concentering at this point, these point, right? Which was the center point of this circle, basically. So, tracing out the center point, you can draw a circle of radius 0.87. Just rotate your cursor here to specify the center point unless it appears on your screen. There you go. And the radius is 0.87. Enter. Next step is to find out that this curved corner is basically connecting with this part, right? Now, you need to focus here that you have done with this corner point, this corner part. Now you have another curved surface, and this means you have three different kinds of measurements here, like this. One was 0.87, another is radius 5, and another one is radius 0.38. But we don't know and we cannot find out the center point for this circle. Neither we can find out the center point for this circle. We do have the center points for this curved part, so we have just done with this, but we need to go for these parts. So at this point, we just need to mirror the other part, and then we will make the connections using this radius, right? So this is the time to use the mirror command. Okay, it is better to zoom out. So here is the mirror command. It asks you to select the object. One thing, if you have to make a number of selections, is to press the right key and drag your mouse throughout the model, and then enter and specify the first point of the mirror line, which is going to be here at the line of symmetry. You see the mirror has been created. All you need is to fix the other point now. So bring it to the other end point and enter. Okay, we need to do it once again. Select right key, press right key, and then select the whole. Enter first point of the mirror line and second point as the end point and enter. It will ask you to erase the source object, so it's no. And here is the mirror image. Next step is to zoom in first, and if you see, this radius for the curve is 5. So you can now easily make connection between the circles using the radius 5. So go for tangent radius command and click on a little outer sides and give the radius 5 and enter. So there is a very easy connection between the two. Next step is to you have to make these curves, But before creating these curves, you also need to draw these straight lines, right? So I have taken the line command, enter, and just draw a horizontal line of any certain length with angle specifically 0, and then escape. And then using this intersection point, let me zoom it for you. Using this intersection point exactly here, you need to draw another straight line specifically at 90-degree angle and then enter. These are two reference lines. So spontaneously just change the color like this. Okay, this one is our model line, and we will trim off the extra parts, so just keep it white. Next step is to make this curve, which is of radius 0.38. So again use 10 radius, and now this time tangent, tangent, and give the radius 0.38. So the circle will provide you the curved part. Now trim off the extra lines, delete an extra part of the circle like this, zoom out to get a clear picture. And first of all, trim off this extra line. And at this point, again, we can use the mirror command. So select the object. We want to mirror this part and this part. So just enter, select the initial point, which could be this point. And you see that this intersection point can be your second point if you want, or take the center point. Erase the source object, no. And now trim off this connection and these. Next step is to join these lines, the inner ones. This is also very simple. What you can do is use the same 10 radius command and define a huge object, huge radius, just randomly 5,000. And you see a straight line is here. Immediately trim off the extra lines and repeat the same on other side. Tangent, tangent point, and the same radius. And just quickly trim off the extra part like this. And now zoom out. Next is to make the leftover connections first. And what are those basically? The connection between these inner circles, these two circles, and the radius provided is here, 4.63. This one, 4.63 will make the connection between these two inner circles. So 4.63 with same 1010 radius command, zoom in, bring it to the center. So 10, 10, and the radius is 4.63. 3, enter. Now you have to carefully trim off the extra parts like this. Next is to make all these three lines using 10, 10 and a huge radius value. So one helpful command is 10, 10 radius. Now give the radius and quickly trim off the extra lines. Same command, 10, tangent, and same radius. And I would suggest again and again that once you're done with this huge radius value, just trim off then and there immediately. So you won't get confused in the long run with this line. Now you quickly need to delete this rest of the line. Undo so we can delete this thing and escape. And once you select, the whole will be selected and then delete. Next is to trim off the inner parts, unwanted lines of the circle or unwanted circumference part of the circles, right? So like this, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. There you go. So I guess we have done with almost 80 part of our model. Next is to make the outer boundaries. And for that, you just need to make connection between this circle part and this part with straight lines. So again, tangent, tangent, and huge reference value. Here, you can quickly mirror this line by just selecting and specify the mirror points. You can specify the first point. So you see this reference axis, that is basically vertical reference axis, is so helpful in this way that you can mirror multiple times whenever you want. And trim, trim, and we are done. Now zoom in to trim off the extra lines. And according to the model, you need to trim off this part. There is a corner, curved corner basically. So trim this thing like this. Now you can trim off this part and this. And here is the final version of your model. It was a quite lengthy model because you need to concentrate on small things, but the model was not that typical. All you need is to concentrate clearly on coordinate points, and then you can have easily, very easily, have your model like this. Now it's time to first apply the hatch command. So you do have a good picture, and this time I prefer to use the gradient, and like this. This is good. One thing in the end, you need to delete this line. There you go. And final version of your model. And now you have to define all the measurements or dimensions. So begin with the radius. Let's increase the dimension style. One 1.5 would be great, I think. Text color, let's take okay. Now arrow size also 1.5. Just make it visible. And arrow size 1.5. Perfect. This is too much to handle. Let's reduce the size. To 0.5 and 0.5. Okay, this is good. Now, again, the radius. This is 0. I think we should reduce a little bit more. So 0.4 and 0.4. Yes, this is fine. Now we can again mention the radius like this. So you see, all the values are correct. This is here. And a lot of radius in this model are here. So it is better to mention all of them. And it's time for some linear distances. If we can easily mention them. Center point, center point. The distance is here. And a lot of distances are here from the base point. So we can mention a few of them. It's angular distance. Like this. So I think this is enough. And we are done with slip cover. See you in the next model. Thank you.